Are you one of those students who study really hard for their exams but then end up answering the questions wrong? Well, we've always been there. In this video, I will share with you the question solving strategies that helped me rank consistently first in my medical school and score in the 99th percentile on the US licensing exams. The first thing to keep in mind when designing your question solving strategies is how much time do you have per question. If your exam is 1 hour long and you have only 20 questions to answer, then you have 3 minutes per question. On the other hand, if you have 60 questions for 1 hour, that leaves you only with 1 minute per question. So your strategy to solve the question will vary significantly based on how much time do you have per question and also how long this question is and how complicated these problems are. And once you identify that, we can go ahead and build our question solving strategies, because this strategy will vary by exam. Don't think that I use the same strategy for all the exams in my life. When I had an exam with plenty of time per question, I read every single detail. I had time to go maybe once or twice over the questions, where I had to skim over the question stem, sometimes not even read all the answers, maybe not have time to review the answers. The second block of your question solving strategy is whether you want to read the answers first versus the question stem first. And some might be wondering, why would I read the answers before the question stem? And the reason is having a quick look at the answers might give you an idea of what the question is about, especially when you have a very long question stem. So instead of you spending 30 seconds to identify what the question is about, you can have a very quick look at the answer options so you can identify what is this question asking about. So when you go ahead and read the question stem, you don't get lost. But how much time should you spend on reading these options? And then here I'm talking about the options for MCQ questions, when you have the main question stem and you have multiple options you have to pick from. In my opinion, if you decide to read the options first before the question stem, you should not spend more than 5 seconds doing that, because the purpose here is not to find the answer, is just to gear you towards what is this question about. So don't read word by word what each option is. Just have a very quick look so you can identify what this is talking about and then go to the question stem. However, some people don't feel comfortable reading the options before the question. Some people say it might bias you towards certain answer versus the other before reading the question stem. Reading the options first is a skill you have to develop. I myself was against reading the options first. I always preferred reading the question first. However, with time, when I started trying it, I found it to be saving me a lot of time. But I tried it multiple times for so many days and months before I tried it on the exam day. So you don't want to be experimenting on your exam day. So if you want to try this method and see if it's helping you save time, go ahead and try it before the exam when you're studying. And then if you see that it's saving you time, you can go ahead and implement it in the assessment tools, in the practice tests you do before you do it on the actual exam. The third thing you have to think about when it comes to solving questions on the exams, what are you gonna read first of the question stem? If the question stem is a line, it doesn't matter. You can read start from anywhere. But for complicated exams like the USMLE exams, the question stem is around 7-8 lines. And if you read every single word of every single question, you might run out of time. So when you start reading the question stem, where should you start looking? Some recommend starting from beginning to end, word by word. The second group recommends starting from the beginning, reading a quick line, then going to the end, reading the final sentence, then reading the full question stem. While the third group, which I belong to, recommends reading the final sentence, then going ahead and reading the full question. Why I believe this strategy is helpful? Because sometimes you can figure out from the final sentence of the question what is this question asking, and you can avoid reading the whole question stem, especially if you're running out of time. So if the final sentence of the question says, what is the mechanism of action of this medication? Now you don't need to know any information in the question stem, because the question is straightforward. What is the mechanism of action of this medication? So you don't need prior information to help you answer this question. So by you looking first at the options quickly, you can identify that these are different mechanisms of action. Then by looking at the final sentence, if it was asking about the mechanism of action of a certain medication, you can just go ahead and read the options and pick the right one. But question test writers are smarter than that most of the time, and they don't give you the whole question stem with one sentence. So they might ask you what is the most likely diagnosis. So in that that case, you need the information in the question stem to help you answer the question. But now you have some direction to look for in the question stem. By reading the final sentence, you can see that this is asking about the diagnosis. So now when you go ahead and read the full question, your eyes and brain are looking for keys to help you identify the diagnosis of a cardiac disease. And that, in my opinion, can help save you a lot of time when you're reading the question stem. By the way, if you're a medical student watching this video and you're interested in learning about research, I have the perfect solutions for you. I have significant background in research. I did 1 year of research at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, which is the #1 hospital in the world, and 2 years of research at MD Anderson Cancer Center, which is the #1 cancer center in the world. And during my 3 years of research, I published over 150 papers, and I summarized all the experience I have to publish clinical research in my comprehensive research course, From Idea to Publication. This course has helped hundreds of students learn about research and publish their own work, and we trust our work so much that we made this course 100% satisfaction guarantee, which means if you're not happy, we'll give you your money back. If you're interested in learning more about or signing up for this course, go ahead and click the link in the card above or the link in the description below. And I also have multiple other courses to help you learn about statistics, systematic reviews, how to find research positions, USMLE courses, and how to study for exams. And you'll find all these links in the description below. Now, another thing you have to think about is, are you gonna read the question stem from beginning to end, word by word? Now you have a direction or an idea about the question and what it's looking for. Are you gonna direct your attention fully to every single word, or mainly look for the important information that can help you answer this question? And in my opinion, you should not be dividing your attention equally to every single word, especially for exams that have very long text and limited time, because you don't want to dedicate so much time to a question and then miss other questions that you might know the answer to. So what I would recommend is going quickly through the information that you don't think is relevant to what the question is asking about, and you holding a magnifier for that keyword that can help you answer the question. However, this is a very advanced skill that will not come overnight. You have to solve hundreds, if not thousands, of questions before you develop that ability to be searching for these keywords. And you have to have very good knowledge of the different topics tested on that exam so you can look for this type of information. For example, if you start reading the question and you see certain age group, certain gender developing chest pain, your mind has to start thinking about the different options that can present in chest pain in that age group, in that gender. And as you know, every disease has certain characteristics that makes it more or less likely to happen. So your brain is actively looking for these keywords or things that can help you rule in or rule out certain diagnoses, while you go quickly over information that you don't think is relevant to your diagnosis of chest pain. And again, similar to the other strategies I discussed, this is not something you try on the exam day. This is something you have to try long before the exam, when you're starting to study for the material, starting to solve questions, and see if this technique can work for you. Because if it does, especially for long questions with limited time, it could be a lifesaver. And remember, this will not always work. Sometimes you might have to read the question 2 or 3 times before you connect all the dots and answer the questions correctly. However, this should be the exception, not the rule, and you should be able to answer the question from one read most of the time. Now, after you read the whole question or you skimmed through the question, you have 2 options here. Either you know exactly what the answer is, or you don't know what the answer is. If you're 100% sure of the answer based on multiple keywords that supported your diagnosis in the case of a cardiac disease, you can go ahead and look among the options that you have and pick the right answer. If you know the answer but you're not 100% sure, I recommend you take a look at the other options, because sometimes 2 options might be very close and there is only one word in the question stem that you might have not paid attention to that would change the answer from A to B. So when you're not 100% sure, especially if you have some time, I recommend you go quickly and read the answers to make sure that there is no better answer for that question. Now let's talk about the other scenario when you don't have a specific answer to the question after reading the question stem. In that case, you have to read carefully the answer options and try to eliminate the wrong ones. Sometimes just seeing the options can ring a bell and help you pick the answer, but sometimes even after you read them, you're not sure what the answer is, and you can go one by one and you can see if this option could be correct or not based on the clues you collected from the question stem. Sometimes after you eliminate 2 or 3 options out of 5, you're left with still more than one option. You might be left with 2 or 3. And if you have bias or suspicion for one over the other, you can go ahead and pick that. But if you don't have an idea about which one is the correct among these 2 or 3 options after you eliminated other ones, you can just throw a dice in the middle of the exam. I'm joking, don't do that. Just pick one randomly. And by the way, if you're a medical student or graduate preparing for the USMLE exams, we have phenomenal advisors and tutors who can help you ace your USMLE exams. From building you a study plan, study schedule, helping you pick the right resources, give you an advice on what you need to do to ace the exam, or just explain to you difficult concepts that you need help with. You can check out our USMLE tutoring service by clicking on the link in the card above or the links in the description below. And this service is also 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you're not happy after the first hour, we'll give you your money back. And the final thing I want to talk about is, should you change your answer after you pick one? If you have a real reason why you want to change this answer, you have evidence why B should be the correct answer after you answered it A, go ahead and change it. But if you're not sure if it's A or B, you picked A first, but now you're leaning towards B, but you don't have an evidence why B is better than A, I generally recommend sticking with the first option you picked. But since I'm a researcher and I believe in evidence, I recommend you do your own experiment. So you can try, especially in practice tests you do, where you don't change the answers at all after the first pick unless you have evidence, versus experiment B, where you can change the answers as you wish and see if this change in answer is bringing your score higher or lower. Before we end this video, if you're a medical student or medical graduate looking to match into residency in the US, we have all the services to help you achieve that goal. From helping you with USMLE exams, teaching you about research, helping you with the match process, or with US clinical experience. You can check the phenomenal reviews we have from the students who worked with us, and I'll leave the link for that in addition to all these services and courses in the description below. If you found any value in this video, I would really appreciate it if you can hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your colleagues so they can learn more about question solving strategies. Before you go, make sure to check out the video I have about how to study 12 hours a day without burning out, and you can watch it by clicking on the link here. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and good luck on your exam.